It's just so hard. You know, it's still so surreal as we continue SportsCenter to even just see the headlines on TV or see the marquee there at the Staples Center.
I'm still waiting to wake up, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it is a nightmare.
Yeah.
And it's a loss that feels so deeply. I mean, not just by people. I covered Kobe, you know, his career since he came into the NBA, since he was a teenager, but I mean, so many people beyond, I mean, feel so deeply connected to Kobe around the world. People who've never met him just breaking into spontaneous tears, just really, really grieving for his loss.
Because he's one of those people you feel like you grew up with. You remember back when we look at Lower Merion when he took Brandy to the prom.
Yeah, I remember
Just a teenager.
Right.
To his final game in the NBA where he dropped 60 points and everything else in between, and everything else that was to come.
We hate to even be at work covering this today, but here is the latest information that we have. A person familiar with the investigation tells ESPN that the helicopter was in a climbing left turn about 2,400 feet high before it dove to the ground about 40 minutes after takeoff from John Wayne Airport in Orange County. Further, the source tells ESPN the pilot had only moments before contacted air traffic controllers to say that he had begun climbing to, quote, go above a layer of clouds. The 9 people on board, as you know, included Kobe Bryant and his 13-year-old daughter, Gianna, second oldest of his 4 daughters. Recordings between the pilot and air traffic controllers indicate that the pilot was getting guidance from controllers as he navigated what was reported to be a dense morning fog in the area. And before the crash, the LAPD had actually grounded all their police helicopters, saying that weather conditions did not meet the standard for flight. So it is still to be determined if those conditions played any role in the crash. We'll know more at some point. The National Transportation Safety Board and the FBI are sending teams of investigators. And these are the headlines from around the world. He truly was a citizen of the world, spending a good portion of his youth, ages 6 to 13, in Italy, speaking multiple languages, a favorite son of both Los Angeles and Philadelphia. There you see L'équipe, l'étoile, the star, and then Kobe es eterno, Kobe forever.
Hannah, Kobe and Gianna were on their way to a youth basketball game at the Mamba Sports Academy in Newbury Park, where Kobe was to have coached Gianna's team. Gianna shared her dad's passion for basketball, had ambitions to become a professional basketball player. Kobe survived by his wife Vanessa and daughters Natalia, Bianca, and Capri. Other victims on board the helicopter: Orange Coast College baseball coaching legend John Altobelli, his wife and daughter; Christina Mauser, a basketball coach at an Orange County, California private school and mother of 3; middle school student Peyton Chester and her mother Sarah; and the pilot of the helicopter.
Our sympathies going out to all of those families. Just unimaginable. A look really surreal at the marquees outside and on top of the Staples Center. That's LA Live this morning. People coming together to remember one of their own.
One of their own.
Hard
That's
to believe.
Yeah.
I spoke to Bob Costas about the life and legacy of Kobe Bryant earlier on SportsCenter.
I think he was building a post-career and beyond basketball legacy that now will not be fulfilled. So there would have been more to assess in that regard were it not for this tragedy, but we could see the way it was headed, and it was headed toward a very positive and far-reaching legacy. But as a player, he was certainly one of the all-time greats, but there's a difference between achievement and stardom. We could make a list, and I don't want to tick these names off because it seems like we'd be diminishing them. We can make a list of some players, some contemporaries, who are at least close to as good as Kobe in terms of achievement, but did not have the star power that he had. And of course, just like Derek Jeter with the Yankees, playing with the Lakers, not only in that market, but at a time when they were consistently good and there were championships or contending for championships in the years that they didn't win, that elevated all of it. But there's a difference between presence and stardom and mere athletic excellence. He had that whole package.
So well said by Bob Costas, of course, for so many years, the face of the NBA on NBC and the other man that has guided us through the NBA for the last 3 decades, TNT's Ernie Johnson, a longtime host of Inside the NBA, chronicling Kobe's life and career, joins us on the phone. And Ernie, it just seems so surreal. Can you possibly try to put this tragedy into perspective?
Oh, it still seems that way to me as well, Hannah. I was driving home from North Carolina yesterday afternoon when my son called me, and I was just listening to music on the, in the car, and my son called me and he said, "Have you heard?" And I immediately turned the radio on and heard the reports, and it still seems so unreal. Then I called Charles and I called Shaq and I called Kenny, and we we were all just in this state of stunned disbelief. And then I just, my mind has been going so many places over the last several hours, and then I settled back on Vanessa and Natalia and Bianca and Capri, and what they've lost, a father and a husband and a sibling. And I think about John Altobelli and his wife Carrie and his daughter Alyssa, and I know that surviving is a son JJ and their daughter Alexis. I think about Matt Mauser losing his wife Christina, and I think about Sarah Chester and her daughter Peyton, and the helicopter pilot, and it's just, then you say, where do you go from here? And I think this is just a time, Hannah, where your faith and your family and your friends will try to get you through something like this, and I'm hopeful that there is all of those elements in plentiful supply for all the families that have just been shattered here. I mean, this isn't a basketball story. This is a story of families shattered in an instant, and it's just indescribable.
It's such a terrible tragedy in so many ways, and I just can't, help but think of the 3 teenagers who they had their whole lives ahead of them. Our friend Shaq, who we both love so much, who won 3 championships with Kobe, and their relationship had come full circle. It was so difficult. And then they came together as MVPs of the All-Star Game in 2009, and Kobe gave that trophy to Shaq's son, and Kobe was there at the unveiling of Shaq's statue. Can you just talk a little bit about the journey, about the fact and really the blessing that their relationship, that they came back together, what they meant to each other?
Yeah, and, Shaq and I have talked about this a lot, and he's talked about it on the show, too. And, Shaq says, yeah, look, I'm a marketing genius, and I know what's going to work and what's going to get people talking. And sure, there was friction between the two at that point in their careers, but there was never, to me, a feeling that this was going to be a long-lasting thing. And they had a sit-down together on NBA TV one night, which was so good for the soul, Hannah, because they locked eyes and they laughed and they shook hands and they joked and then they got serious about it and talked about, and Shaq saying, look, I'm sorry that I did that. And I think that to me, sports can be so powerful. It can be an example to folks who don't live in that stratosphere. We're talking about these guys who are at the height of their profession, these great athletes, and we can look at that too and say, if those 2 guys are going to sit down and they can clear the air, and then I can do the same thing. And I think that's kind of one of the tales that I see in a story like this, when I say, look, we're not assured of our next breath. We don't know the time. We don't know the hour. But we do know that if there's something that needs to be resolved in our lives, take care of it, because you don't know if you'll have that chance again to make things right with somebody. And I think that's one of the lessons that we see when lives are taken far too early, and we can't figure it out. We don't know why it happened, but I know that when we look at this, we can say, who do I need to make it right with? Who do I need to approach? Who do I need to humble myself before to say, hey, look, I want things to be right. I don't want there to be anything lingering or anything that's left unsaid, because we don't know. We just don't know.
When you look at Kobe and how he's being remembered, certainly it's for the 5 championships and the rings and everything, but you know what we find ourselves talking about today is that humanity. It is him as a father and as a mentor and as a friend. Ernie?
Oh, I mean, Hannah, if you can't look at those pictures, these recent pictures of the retired Kobe Bryant, and the love that's on his face when he is at a basketball game with Gianna, and knowing that he is in a good spot, 41 years old, great post-basketball career he's embarked on, and to see that taken away, and that's what pierces your heart.
Ernie, as always, appreciate your friendship, appreciate you so much and your perspective, and thank you so much for being with us on this difficult day.
Hannah, anything for you. And let me just, you guys are doing an unbelievable job in the most difficult story to chronicle, and you guys keep it up. And I hope to see you soon.
Thank you, my friend.
We won't forget you, Kobe. We love you. In the name of Jesus, we all say, Amen. Amen, Kobe.
I couldn't move forward with the world froze for a second. I don't know.
He was LA.
The reason I fell in love with basketball is Kobe Bryant, 100%.
At the Mamba Sports Academy in Thousand Oaks, where Gianna was scheduled to play on Sunday, players and families, stunned and heartbroken, took a knee for a moment of silence. As soon as the news broke, fans in Lakers jerseys arrived here on this courtyard across the street from Staples. Even more are expected this week as the mourning continues.
And it was LeBron James Saturday night that said being in any conversation with Kobe was humbling. That was after LeBron had scored his 29 against the Sixers and moved past Kobe for third on the NBA's all-time scoring list, an achievement that was immediately met by that tweet from Kobe, his last tweet. LeBron returned to Los Angeles, and his words from Saturday night keep playing out in my head: to be linked to the greats because I grew up idolizing guys like Kobe, getting inspiration from their craft, from their stories. It's just too much. The story is too much. If we only knew then what we know now.
One of the worst days of my life, the only thing I can compare it to is I had a brother killed in Korea, and I'm just devastated by this news. And to watch him transform his life and career, he was more than an iconic basketball player. He was someone who inspired millions of fans. This guy was like a Pied Piper. People would follow him everywhere just to look at him, to touch him, for him to say hello. For me, this is a god-awful day.
It's very difficult for me to put in words how I feel about the loss of Kobe Bryant. I had the privilege of being there when he scored his 81-point game, and it was something that I will always remember as one of the highlights of the things that I have learned and observed in sports. Kobe, my thoughts are with you. Absolutely. Rest in peace, young man. This loss it's just hard to comprehend.
Magic Johnson put out several tweets, including this one in which he calls Kobe the greatest Laker of all time. It's hard to accept. Kobe was a leader of our game and a mentor.
Shaquille O'Neal won 3 titles with Kobe Bryant, posting this on Instagram. There are no words to express the pain I'm going through now with this tragic and sad moment of losing my niece, Gigi, and my friend, my brother, my partner in winning championships, my dude, and my homie. I love you, and you will be missed. My condolences goes out to the Bryant family and the families of the other passengers on board. There were 8 games to be played in the NBA after this news. Every single one of them on the slate honoring Kobe Bryant. You see Jamal Murray's reaction. Players finding out in real time. Remember where you were. They're going to remember where they were as well. Rockets and Nuggets holding a moment of silence.
A tragedy has befallen the world of basketball. Earlier today, at the age of 41, Kobe Bryant was killed in a helicopter crash. The NBA and the game of basketball will mourn this loss together. Please join us in a moment of silence for Kobe Bryant. Rest in peace, Mamba.
It was emotional for players young and old. Austin Rivers is there. He's having trouble. And Tyson Chandler as well grew up. He was high school ball in Compton, California.
The Raptors-Sun game, Spurs game, this was in San Antonio about 4 p.m., 4 hours after the crash. Both teams took 24-second shot clock violations. Becky Hammon in tears. Tim Duncan in tears.
Let's go to New Orleans Pelicans and Celtics. The arena remembering Kobe, remembering Gianna. Pelicans with a moment of silence starting with 24.8 seconds, right? Honoring both of the jersey numbers that Kobe wore. And players, so many players putting them on the numbers on and the mentality, Mamba mentality on their sneakers. Start of the game, more intentional shot clock violations and more cheering in New Orleans. Listen to this. Again, both teams honoring Kobe with the 24-second shot clock violation, 2-4. You can see Kemba Walker throwing those up for Kobe Bryant.
And then Madison Square Garden lit up the purple and yellow before the Knicks and Nets game. Numbers 8 and 24. I mean, he had his picture on the marquee outside. Kobe set Madison Square Garden's current scoring record of 61. It's where he played in his first All-Star game. The opening possession, the Nets took the 24-second violation. Knicks did the exact same thing on their first possession. Clock winds down. And then the images of Spike Lee and the Nets coach, Kenny Atkinson, who was at MSG for that 61-point performance. Wow. Part of this game as well.
Wizards and Hawks in Atlanta, and Trae Young had a relationship with Kobe Bryant. Bradley Beal showing his emotion. But Trae said that Kobe told him in their last phone call how proud he was of him. And he told Trae he wanted him to continue to be a role model for younger players, boys and girls. Trae Young, dealing with that emotion, went for 45 points in this game. He hit a half-court shot. It's nuts. Now he's wearing number 8 to honor Kobe. It's not his usual jersey number. And then he pulls up from half-court, of course. League coming together to honor one of their greatest players. Again, 45 points for Trae Young and the Hawks win. The reaction from players, current and past around the league. Why don't we start? It was Dwayne Wade actually on social media offering his thoughts and choked up with emotion as we saw on the court and certainly on social media.
Today is one of the saddest days in my lifetime. It seems like a bad dream that you just want to wake up from. It's a nightmare. I know we all feel the same way about such a great leader, just a great champion. He's a great person. If you got a chance to know Kobe, you got a chance to really know Kobe. Ain't nobody better, man. Kobe, thank you, man. Thank you for all the memories. We got a lot of good ones. And these tears that we're crying, we're going to miss you.
I just don't have a lot to say. The news is just devastating to everybody.
who knew him, who known him a long time. And, you know, he means a lot to me, obviously.
For him to tell me that, you know, in his book I'm an all-star and stuff like that, you know what I mean, like that, I talked about the popularity contest before, and like, you know, you don't win things like that, you know, when you're me. So for him to say that, like, I didn't need to be selected, you know what I mean, anymore, like, because I was an all-star, you feel me? Like, it's not just like my family, you know, it was the guy.
Probably the hardest game I ever had to play. I don't know. Whew. Well, it was tough. It was tough.
Why did you play?
I think, honestly, knowing him, the way that I know him, he would have wanted me to play.
Oh, it's just one of those things that make you sick to your stomach. You know, it's disturbing, and it's bigger than just, you know, our heroes and people we looked up to dying. You know, it's deeper than that. You know, so it's painful, and it still seems like it's not real.
The legacy here is that of one of the greatest winners in basketball history. He wasn't just a player. He was one of the game's greatest champions, 5-time champion, 2 times finals MVP, league MVP, 18-time NBA All-Star, 2-time Olympic gold medalist representing the United States.
Kobe and his daughter were 2 of 9 people who died when the helicopter crashed. Now, among the victims, John Altobelli, the head baseball coach at Orange Coast College. According to the school, Altobelli's wife, Carrie, as well as their 13-year-old daughter, Alyssa. They also died. Christina Mauser, a girls basketball coach at Southern California, a private elementary school there, a 38-year-old mother of 3, was also killed. The pilot's name has not yet been released, and 2 other victims have yet to be identified. Now, if the Altobelli name is familiar to you, there is a reason why. John is one of 5 coaches in California community college baseball history to win 4 or more state championships. His team also won the title just a season ago in 2019. He coached at that school for nearly 30 years, and his teams won more than 700 games. He also coached the Mets, Jeff McNeil, who told our Jeff Passan, "John is one of the main reasons I am still playing professional baseball."